Hello, everyone. It is May the 5th, Saturday at 1 o'clock, and welcome to our weekly broadcast. As always, at 1 o'clock, we discuss domestic violence and abuse. I'm going to expand the topic to include child abuse, adult survivors of child abuse, those who are in relationships with abusers who perhaps, you know, if you're the wife or the husband and your partner uses corporal punishments and is abusive to the children, what to do, give some advice on that. I see that a lot in my practice. But welcome, 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 welcome. I hope my mods get in here. Let me pop the chat out. Y'all know I have the most awesome mods. Love my mods. Let's see. Always at the beginning. I swear it changes every single time. But I hope that everyone is following me on my new Twitter, which is Mama Beth's World 1, because Twitter is being a butthole, and they won't let me sign into my original account. Hey, Michelle. Hi, Kelly. Thank you all so much for being here. If y'all will share the chat and see if we can get everybody joined. I put out several Twitter notifications, and I did one on Facebook as well, and I did not do one on Snapchat, which I probably should because my Snapchat's following pretty good. But let me pop the chat. Hi, Steph. It's so good to see you. You were such a great guest last week. I really appreciate you coming on. Okay, get the chat. Why is this not doing what I say? Of course. There we go. And pop the chat up. And there we are. So I'm really happy to see you all here. I appreciate you coming. It's a rainy day here. And I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but if you're like me and you have rheumatoid arthritis or fibromyalgia or anything like that, you're affected by the weather. So it's I am not in my kitchen. Well, there are a couple reasons I'm not in my kitchen. First of all, that chair that I sit in the kitchen is probably the hardest chair in the world. It's a straight back chair, and it's a dining room table chair, but it's not real comfortable. So, hi Joe, it's so good to see you. So when I sit in there and I sit for too long, I'm stiff and in pain. And with the weather being like it is right now, it's like I don't need to. Also, my kitchen is a disaster area. They finally brought the rest of my new appliances. I got my countertops and backsplash picked out, but there is crap everywhere. It looks. They took the old refrigerator, thank God, and the old dishwasher that they had pulled out. They did take those away, but now I have other things that are sitting in the floor and all around, and I'm ready to pull my hair out. I don't even want to cook. I don't want to go in the kitchen right now. So I'm in the den. As you can see, my husband is a Redskins and a Virginia Tech fan, and everything is burgundy and gold on his side of the den. And then because he's a fisherman, we have this painting of a fish, and it's by Michael McConnell. And yeah, that was a present. So it's fun, but let's see what's going on. Kelly, what's going on? Oh, your little girl's in the hospital getting your appendix out. Oh, God love her. Well, she's young. She's what, 5? How old is your little one? But she's at a good age to get her appendix out. They heal fast. Kids, I always say kids are kind of made out of rubber. They heal quickly. They mend quickly. So hopefully, it's nothing too serious, and they'll be able to go in there and get it right out, and she'll heal up and be ready to go in a few weeks, or not even a few weeks, probably a few days. But thank you for saying I look beautiful, Michelle. You're always beautiful. So compliment from you is just stuff. But as we start the discussion today, there are a couple things that I wanted to cover, that I wanted to talk about, that have come up with people that I've talked to. My clients, my patients during the week, and and then I also get emails and I get DMs from different people. And one of the things that was brought up about abuse is what to do if you see the cycle repeating itself. Say your grandparents the grandparents fight with one another. The kids are neglected. The kids sometimes get slung around and injured, and then they're told to be quiet because it's a personal family matter. And then those children grow up and they do the same thing. They have the same kind of damaging relationships, and then they treat their children the same way. The children are almost as an afterthought. We see this a lot in the baby boomers. And let me explain why I say that. Let me get some coffee. Coffee and Gatorade. But we see children of baby boomers. The baby boomers were, of course, born between I think it's 1942 and 1963. That's that generation, and their parents were the ones who grew up during the Depression, where they had, a lot of them had severely hard times. Hunger was ever present, unemployment, and people were raised that you make do. Life is hard. You suffer through it. You'll get a reward at the end if you're religious. You have your faith, but that children are had to work. A lot of especially the area I'm in, which is the Appalachians. I'm an Appalachian American. Kids were seen. There was such a high mortality rate for children, and I mean it was like 30% throughout the late 1800s, throughout the early 1900s. So children died regularly before reaching age 18, but children were needed to work. They were needed to work at home. Oftentimes, the child labor laws hadn't been changed in a lot of places, and a lot of times they were just ignored. So children were a source of income. You had a kid, you raised it up to about, well, sometimes 6 years old, and then you've got them out weeding the garden. You've got them, picking whatever fruits, vegetables, anything. I mean, I've seen kids, families with 12 kids, and all 12 kids are up in trees picking cherries and apples and whatnot. And, so kids were a source of labor. And if you lost one along the way, it was expected. Lost one or two or three, but so there was kind of a hardness that you built up that those people, in that era, in the Depression era, they built up kind of an emotional wall. They didn't get too attached to the kids because, you'd be devastated grieving all the time. So they were a little harder. They were a little harsher. They were rougher with kids. If a kid didn't obey, sometimes they could, get severely hurt. Especially if you're working on a farm or, in a mill or wherever, you could get injured. So sometimes the punishment was too harsh, and it was corporal. So the baby boomers grew up with those people as their parents. And because they had been treated that way, and they grew up like that, they treated the baby boomers they weren't coddled. There wasn't a lot of affection. They were expected to do better than their parents. They were like, you don't have a depression. We're getting you an education. Civil rights was coming around. They were expected to do better and to have more and to be successful above all else. But it was monetary success. It wasn't necessarily emotional success. Now, if we think to ourselves, okay, oh shit, I'm in top chat. If we think to ourselves, well, what makes a successful life? Do we consider ourselves successful if we have a lot of money and we have a lot of things, or do we consider ourselves successful if we have a great balance of emotional say stability and a happy relationship and marriage, kids that want to call home and want to come home and visit or stay in touch with us, and a balance of economic, success. That's that didn't happen with the baby boomers. It was all about economic success. The keeping up with the Joneses that came in during the baby boomers. So they were always looking to see who had what. It's very evident in my family. My parents, my aunts and uncles, they're baby boomers. Now I have one aunt and uncle, and they're so mellow. I love them to death. They're chilled out about it. They don't care. They're not worried about competing with anybody. They're just like, we're happy. and they have a nice home. They have a nice life. They're retired. My cousin, their oldest son's about to retire, and they've lived their life not trying to keep up with anybody else, and they've had economic security. They're not poor, and and they've done things in social networks, but their family's most important to them. Now, the rest of my aunts and uncles, I can't say that for. They're always reaching for the bigger, better deal. They're competing against each other. Okay, this is a crazy thing, but when I say that the baby boomers were taught to, compete against one another, and that was how they measured their success. My parents, back, I don't know if you all will remember, but back in the day, we rented VCRs when we rented movies, and my my parents finally, because VCRs were like $500 back in the 80s, and early 80s, and but my parents said, "Well, we'll go ahead and get one. We're renting a VCR every weekend, and it was like $3 to rent it, but still, we rented movies all the time. Plus, we had HBO and all this other stuff. So we watched a lot of TV in the evening, and I read a lot, but I like movies and stuff like that, of course. And there was some that I would rent 3 or 4 times because I'm one of those people that watches the same movie over and over again, especially if it's John Hughes. You remember your parents renting them for you. And yeah, it's happiness, contentment, and impacting others in a positive way. That's what success to us is. But like my parents, okay, so they go and they buy a really nice VCR. Okay. My dad was a science professor, and he also had a farm, raised cattle, and then he worked at the livestock market every Tuesday, which I think it was just so he could stay in with all the farmers and know everybody and get all the gossip and have a good time. That was kind of his de-stress time. It was work, but he loved it. But my aunt and uncle had gotten a VCR first. Now, I love my aunt and uncle, not gonna lie. But they had one, and it was a cheaper brand. And my parents had bought a better brand. And they did it specifically because they knew what brand my aunt and uncle had bought. Well, my aunt and uncle were up visiting. And they were like, "Wow, your VCR sure does rewind fast." And Dad's like, "Yeah, it's a whatever. I think it was a Sony or something like that." And Mom said, "What's yours?" Like she didn't. And I'm telling you, it was something so stupid as competing over a VCR. Who had the better VCR? And it was everything. It was cars. It was clothes. It was, you name it. Which my mother could never keep up with my aunt on jewelry because she's like me. She likes her jewelry too. And I think I get it from my grandmother and my Aunt Ann. But yeah, she had great taste. But they competed with each other, but it was about economic competition, and it was about economic happiness. And the more money you had, supposedly the happier you would be and the happier your kids would be. Okay, let me tell you, the kids, Gen X, that's what I'm in, the baby boomers children, we did not get what we needed. Okay, I had designer shoes, clothes, there were alligators on everything, your shoes were Nikes or Reeboks when they just came out, the Bugle Boy pants. My dad had Bugle Boy jeans. And I mean, it was just, everything was labels, labels, labels. And we had, the best of everything that we showed out. But let me tell you, at home, it was rough. Um, they believed in, they came first. Children did not come first. Parents came first. And you better be grateful for what you have because we're working for it. And, while, yeah, you want to teach your children gratitude, you also want to teach your children that they're loved and that they're special and they're bright and that they can achieve whatever they want to work for, not have it handed to them, of course. But, anything you want is in your grasp. And spend a lot of time, with hugs and, doing things with your kids. My parents didn't do that. I was in every lesson available, but my parents never sat through anything more than a recital at the end of the year. They never came to practice. They didn't come to play practices. They would come to the opening night and that was it. it's not like they had their life and then we were additional. And a lot of times, if we didn't, like in my household, if I didn't do what I was told, I'd get hit and screamed at. And it made for we did not have emotional comfort in our home. And I noticed that a lot of my friends who are in their 40s now, I'm 47, um, it's very few and far between that say, yeah, my parents were very lovey, feely, hug. Most of them were like, no, we were expected just to do it and to get the best grades possible and get to the best college possible. And we had to make every team. And you didn't make a team, you were it was just devastating. So there was a lot of pressure put on us that way. And that is a form of abuse. That if you neglect the emotional side of your child, hi, Steve. It's good to see you. Thank you for coming in. But back to this, if you neglect your child emotionally, it's just as bad as neglecting them physically. I mean, seriously, if your child is crying and you can't pick them up or, bring them to you and comfort them, to me, that's as abusive as telling them that they can't have enough to eat for dinner. You're starving in some way. And I know that sounds kind of over the top, but seriously, I would rather go without food than go without affection, wouldn't you? I mean, I would rather have somebody tell me that, I'm worthy and that I'm loved and that, you know, I'm a person they want in their life. I'd much rather have that than, chocolate cake. But the way we were raised, it was the other way. So, you know, I think that, and then following that, because my daughter, of course, and her generation, people are like, oh, the millennials. All right, my daughter was born in 91. I raised her exactly opposite of the way I was raised. And I did that on purpose. And a lot of my friends have done that. They spend more time. That's why people make fun of soccer moms and helicopter moms and all that. Well, it's because our parents didn't pay any attention to us. If I think I can count on one hand the times my dad played baseball with my brother and me in the backyard. Yep, he wanted my brother to make a baseball team. So yeah, I would rather starve than have a broken heart. Absolutely. There is nothing worse. And let me tell you, there is no worse broken heart than thinking and feeling that your parents don't value you or love you or think about you. That's your first broken heart. When you go, why isn't mom paying any attention to me and I'm hurting? Or, why doesn't dad care? I need help and they're not there. That is your first broken heart. And it's horrible. So, with my daughter and with my daughter's friends, we all tried to give a lot of emotional support. Yeah, not gonna lie, I still had it ingrained in me that she had to have, designer shoes and, designer clothes, but it was mingled with stuff that, was less expensive. And I didn't put quite as much emphasis on, what label was on as to whether I took time to braid her hair in the morning and put the little bows. And I got there were these little butterfly clips that were on springs and they would move, and she loved those. So I got them for her. And then I learned how to make those chopsticks that you put in the hair. Spending time doing my daughter's hair, the night before she wanted curls, I put it in rag curls. That was mom and daughter time. And then we go brush her teeth and, get her ready for bed. And, but that time together and, whether it was, she was my focus. Even though I worked, 2, sometimes 3 jobs, because I wasn't making as much money back then. And I had to support us. I supported her. I supported my second husband and his child. And I don't regret that because he was lazy and she needed things. And he was broody. But, it was always important to me, even though I was struggling to keep the bills paid, to make sure that there was emotional support for, my child and then my stepdaughter as well. And, I wonder, like my daughter's, she said she's not having kids. She's like, nope, nope, nope. not doing it. She said, because I don't think I can do it well. I'm like, yeah, you do. She said, if I do it, I want to do it just like you did. She said, I want to be the kind of mom you are. She said, I'm very lucky. Which just makes my mind, I'm like, oh, you're my best child in the world, and all this stuff, how you get when your kids are complimentary. But you know, I see the young mothers, because she's 27, and I see, friends her age who are having children, and they're really good mothers. They don't give a crap. Most of them don't give a crap how much money they make as long as the bills are paid. But I think we're much more emotionally stable than as parents, and our kids are more stable emotionally to their children because of the things that we've learned, because we've come through hardship. We know that, every generation gets a little bit better to their children, if you've noticed. Like in the 1800s, kids weren't valued at all. I mean, kids were put in a mill at 5 years old and told to, because their fingers were little enough to get into the workings. And kid died, they'd be like, okay, bring in another one. So, oh, hi, Ash. It's so good to see you, Steve. Steve, you're so funny. I'm like, Steve is my online protector. I said he always is fun to talk to, but he doesn't let any of the guys get out of line. I said he's kind of like our chivalrous hero. But so I'm really glad you're in here. Would now, and when we talk about abuse, we sometimes forget the emotional abuse, and like we talk about having parents who are narcissists or borderline and how that affects us growing up, and that's emotional abuse. But sometimes we just have parents who are neglectful, and I see that too. I see that with a lot of the teens. The parents are like, you know what, I've got shit to do. They're going to have to grow up. And I'm like, you can't just tell a kid to grow up. You raise them. You raise them up. You don't just point your finger and say grow up. So hi Sonia. Good to see you. Um oh, you must have allergies, Ash. My Sjogren's has been acting up. And if you don't know what Sjogren's is, it makes your eyes really dry. It's an autoimmune disorder, and it affects your salivary glands and your tear ducts and other parts that are supposed to stay moist. But your eyes feel like sandpaper when you wake up, and my mouth is so dry I could spit dust. And then when allergies hit, it signals that. So it sounds like you have allergies. I'm sorry, but would anybody, if anybody wants to come up on panel, just let me know. Just holler out in the chat, and I'll send you an email or a tweet. If you're not following me on Twitter, it's Mama Best World and then the number one. And my DMs are open, and all you have to do is let me know if you want to come on. Yeah, I know you know what Sjogren's is, and I find it interesting. There are pockets, and I was thinking about after I talked to you, there are pockets of population that have different disorders, and I'm wondering if I'm just in a pocket. I know that thyroid disorder in Appalachian America, where I am, in these mountains, there was no iodine and no fish, no seafood rather. So people didn't get enough, and there's a lot of thyroid problems, and it's generational. And after so long of going without iodine, apparently your thyroid decides, well, we're just not going to work it out whether we get iodine or not. And so there's like a whole pocket in this area that everybody's got thyroid problems, hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, Graves' disease. It just, it's just crazy how many people do. And I'm wondering, because of the Sjogren's, there are a lot of autoimmune disorders I've noticed in this area, but autoimmune seems to be more common now. Everything from psoriasis to RA to fibro to, even, well, type 1 diabetes is autoimmune. Type 2 can be autoimmune, but it can also be caused by fat around the pancreas. But I'm just wondering maybe I'm in a pocket where the Sjogren's is more than where you are. That's maybe why there's not so many there. Hi, Lily. My mom was emotionally absent. Now that she's old, she wants to hug me, and I hate touching her. Yeah, that happens. If someone tells you no all the time, then when they say, "Oh, now I need you," you don't want it, and that's a normal human reaction, and that's nothing that we should be ashamed of. Nobody should be ashamed of that. Um, Frankly, I don't have contact with my mother. My mother is a narcissist, and while I can say, look, it's a personality disorder, and she's never going to get treatment for it, it still doesn't mean that I want to have contact with her and be abused. And when someone has abused you emotionally, you hang on to that. It stays with you, and you're not going to want to do for them, and you're not going to want. And this is something that the baby boomers are going to learn. They were raised that it was all family, 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 and duty, duty, duty to their parents, most of them. Now, in my family, they wanted to put my grandmother in a nursing home. I wouldn't let them. I took care of it because I took that on myself. But the baby boomers who were emotionally absent and neglectful and did not treat their children with love and care and respect, because we have to give respect to get respect. They're going to find as they're older, because they're hitting their 70s now, they're going to be in nursing homes. They're not going to be in homes taken care of like their parents were or their grandparents were. In my family, the only time you go into a nursing home is right before, like if you left a hospital. Like I've had some great aunts and uncles who had to stay in a nursing home for a short amount of time after being discharged from a hospital for a serious illness, like a broken hip or whatever, or a bad fall. And they stay for a little while, but then they come home. They come home unless I have one great aunt who I love, who has the best kids in the world, and they're all baby boomers, but they were raised with lots of love. They were raised very differently. And my aunt she is in a nursing home, but they go see her every day, like all of them. She has more visitors than I think anybody in the nursing home, because they love her. And she was good to them. And, when you're good to your children are good to you later. So, hello, Miss Petri Dish. It's so good to see you. And I've got something related to relationship. Denver O, would you like to come on panel? If you will send me a DM, I'll send you a link. There's only 4.5 million people in this country, so less of everything except sheep. You're so funny. You know what? We have no sheep here. It's all cattle. And I was looking. I called we have 3 butcher shops in the area, and because most of the time people just go to regular grocery stores like Food Line, the large grocery stores. So and none of them had it, and so I called the 3 butcher shops. I'm like, nobody has lamb. I wanted some lamb chops or a nice, rack of lamb, and because it's not that hard to fix, and it's really good, and I like it, and we rarely get it. You can't find lamb here. I swear, if somebody would move to southern West Virginia and just raise sheep, they would make a killing if they had their own butcher shop. But Steve, you're funny. Sonia says, same as you, Beth, mine not diagnosed, but well, feels the traits of MPD and histrionic. Yeah, and you can't, even though I'm a psychologist, I can't diagnose family members. It's ethically wrong. Family and friends, I don't treat family and friends. That's why if I ever have a friend who wants to talk to me as a therapist, I do it pro bono, and that way, there's no money exchange. So I don't do any of that. But I can't take any more patients right now. But but all through school, all through college, the more I learned about personality disorders, and I'm going tick, 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 and I'm like, oh wow, because that's what you do when you study psychology. You end up diagnosing all your family and your friends first, and you're like, oh, you have this, you have that, you need this, you need that, because you think you're an expert at first, and you're not. But after many years and many years of study, many years of practice, several degrees, yeah, I can say that I feel that's what's going on with my mother. That MPD is pretty much the dead on diagnosis. And what choice do we have when we have parents like that? We can choose to keep throwing ourselves at the cage or throwing ourselves into the battle, because oftentimes it is. It's just a battle. You know, honest to God, and I used to tell my husband, now this was back before I got diagnosed with Wills. This has been a long time. I would have to take a Xanax before going to see my parents because I knew what my mother would do to me. Because I would literally, she would have my nerves so shot and she would get me so upset that even if I left and she was bye, you know, and it was all happy, I would still be like this by the time I got in the car. And I knew that. And I talked to, you know, my therapist. This was while I was in school. I talked to my therapist. You have a therapist all the way through school when you're studying psychology. And he said, well, do what you got to do to get through it or else quit going. And I'm like, quit going? Is that an option? Yeah. How do you not go visit your parents? How do you not be around them, you know? And then I tell you the straw that broke the camel's back. I didn't have any Xanax, but I was able to drink. And I never drank very much. I was always just a social drinker. But I told my husband, and it was Christmas, I said, every time she insults me, whether it's a passive aggressive insult or direct insult, I said, I'm taking a drink. I was trashed. That was, I think, the last time I had anything really to drink. Because honest to goodness, I was drinking bourbon. And they kept, Dad was in on it. He was just filling my glass because it was just all night long. And it was just attack after attack. And she would say thanks to my husband. She would say thanks to my father. And I told my husband, I said, don't say anything back. She'll just attack you. And he's like, okay, but it's really getting hard. And we ended up having to leave before, I guess, everybody else did. Well, some people had left. There was quite a bit of family there. But I told him, I can't take anymore. I said, and I'm going to end up throwing up. So that's been a long time ago, many years ago, and haven't gone back since. And it's been a blessing, you know, when someone continually disrespects you and insults you and abuses you to the point that, you know, you're needing to take medication. Or and I'm not a drinker. That's the thing. I've never been much of a drinker, and the fact that I was needing that to calm my nerves, and I was self-medicating. I was like, this is wrong for me. Yeah, your family are all your first patients, Steve. You can't help it. And all your friends start asking you, like from the first year you're in, you know, in school, they start asking you questions and advice and stuff like that. And you're like, I'm not ready for that yet. But I think that's why after a bachelor's, everybody thinks they're, you know, ready, and they're not. It takes going through at least one master's. People in that generation are so stuck in their ways too. I don't know of any that considered therapy. Yeah, therapy was considered an embarrassment. I mean, I started having anxiety attacks when I was 10, and I was not taken to a psychologist. My mother said, I talked to a psychologist, and she said just to keep you busy, which was bullshit. She had never talked to anybody. I found out later. But I was literally having to leave school. I was having anxiety attacks so bad that, you know, I was doubling up and I would sometimes throw up. And I didn't know what they were. I thought I was just getting sick. I had no idea what it was. But it was an embarrassment. And I remember there were kids that got sent. There's a hospital called St. Albans. It's a wonderful facility. And there would always be a couple kids each year who would disappear from school, that would have to go to St. Albans for a certain amount of time for different problems. Everything from alcohol, drug abuse, abuse at home, self-harm, depression, whatever, anorexia. They treated it all there. It's a really big facility. But everybody goes, oh, so-and-so's kids at St. Albans. Like they had, like it was some kind of a failure to admit that you had a problem and your child had a problem and you were getting them help. To me, it should have been a badge of honor. Hey, you know what? I recognize that my kid had a problem. I got it fixed. How's your kid? That's what, honestly, I have said before. But yeah, the thing is, it's those old attitudes of, well, I'm a perfect parent, or nobody can see that I'm not the best parent, so I can't admit that there's anything wrong, and I can't have my child in therapy, or getting any kind of mental health, or on an antidepressants or whatever. I mean, I'm ADHD. They didn't even diagnose it back in the 70s. I was so ADHD. I mean, and all they did was when you were a little too hyperactive, they beat you. And I got beat all the time. And that's why I am like, do not hit your kids. Maybe they're ADHD. They don't need to be hit. If I'd had medication back then, I would have had a lot easier time. But it's really hard. Yeah, hit the. Oh, thank you for hitting the like. I appreciate it. But cats jumping up and down wanting breakfast. Feed those kitties. I had cucumbers and tomatoes. Okay. I got it. I got an email. Hang on just a second. Give me just a minute. Okay. Let's see. This young lady wants to come on my live stream about domestic violence. I'll have to Google her name. Let me send her a link real quick. See if I can do this right. You all know that Google Hangouts has been kind of a pain in the patootie, but send her. Yeah, open it up on my phone, so. Why is it not coming up? Crap. Give me just a minute. I apologize. I need to find it in my inbox, but I never can remember how to search the inbox. You know what? Let me see if I can send it, because I opened it up on my phone. So let me send this to. Send it directly to you. Okay, give me just a second. Well, you made it easy. It's your name. Okay, I'm gonna title this blank, and you are more than welcome. Come on, I can type today. What is this doing? I have no idea. I apologize. I am technologically challenged. Okay, Okay, here we go. Let's try this. All right, and what I'm emailing you, Rebecca, is the Google Hangouts link, and what you need to do is you need to make sure you have Google Hangouts downloaded onto your laptop, tablet, phone, whatever you want to use. Just do a Google search and just put in Hangouts, and it downloads in like seconds. You'll need to then click, once you've got it downloaded, then you'll click on the link that I sent you, and you'll need to have headphones so you don't echo back and forth. And if you have your YouTube open, which I'm assuming you do, then you'll need to mute it and just use the audio from the Google Hangout. And what I do is there's an option to pop out the chat, and I can show you how to do that as well. But just hit that and put some headphones in if you like, and I would love to hear your story. This young lady is from Canada, and I'm going to Google her name. She asked me to Google her name, so we will see what comes up. Oh, wow. Um, this is unreal. Let me pull this up. I don't know which one to pull up. Rebecca has been a victim of domestic violence, and of course, this is the place to talk about it. And hi, Angie. Hi, Daniel. Um, I'm glad you're about to do a live stream, but I'm in the middle of one. So, whenever yours starts, we'll be happy to come back and watch it. But don't. It's kind of a unwritten rule, darling, that if you're getting ready to start a live stream, you don't go into other live streams and try to swipe their subs or their viewers. Okay, I wouldn't do that to you, and I'd appreciate it if you don't do it to me. But okay, this young lady, I'm just going to read the Global News of Canada article about it, and she gave me permission to do that, and she hopefully will get it set up to where she can come in here. But the title is oh, hi Jessica, I'm glad you're back. Domestic violence survivor wishes SASK, S-A-S-K bill could have come earlier. And Saskatchewan has the highest domestic violence rate in the country. Legislation aimed at helping victims escape the abuse is now being reviewed. David Baxter spoke with a domestic violence survivor. A bill that's currently being reviewed would allow people fleeing domestic abuse to break a lease without penalty and to be able to take a certain amount of paid and unpaid days off work. Rebecca Stephan left her husband 6 years ago, and you can Google her name and Canada and just put Canada News, Canada domestic survivor, and she's everywhere in this. It's an incredible story. She left her husband 6 years ago and said this book would be a great help for women. I wish that would have been in place when I was going through that, she said. In 2011, Steph had already moved out of the home she shared with her ex-husband. She said this was a step in slowly separating from him. Her decision to separate fully came one night in July. Quote, he got very aggressive. He scaled 3 floors up to my apartment building and tried to pry the patio door off its hinges. He did that on more than one occasion, in which case I had to continue to file reports with the police. The situation began to sort itself out once Stephan's ex-husband moved away. However, that was far from the end. He still periodically will make drop-in visits. He still stalks me. He's still trying to gain access to our son. He's still not paying child support, Stephan said. This has resulted in 6 years of reports to the police, court appearances, and counseling for her son. Under the proposed legislation, people fleeing abuse are eligible for 10 paid days off and an unpaid leave of up to 17 weeks per year. Within the last 3 weeks of my life, there have been numerous times I've had to call my boss and say, I can't go in today. I've got court or I have to go talk to the chief of police today. Stephen said her current employer is supportive of her situation, but she's had to leave jobs in the past because she couldn't get the necessary days off. Pretty much all life consuming, Stephen said. When Stephen made the final decision to leave, he, then a husband, she'd already moved into, leave her then husband, sorry, there was a typo there. She had already moved into her own apartment. She's thankful she didn't have a lease acting as an obstacle, but other women she's met through support groups weren't as fortunate. It's a fear that you shouldn't have to be concerned about whether or not you're going to have to sit it out for a year, she said. Bill 603 was labeled by the NDP Justice critic Nicole Sauer and is supported by both parties. On Thursday, Justice Minister Gordon Wyatt said his ministry is reviewing the language of the bill. Wyatt is talking to the Ministry of Labor Relations about the days off. The bill is expected to pass into law by the end of the spring legislative season. And this was written a year ago, so hopefully this bill is already passed. And when she comes in, if she can get to come in, and I did send her the link and everything. I sent her an email. Let me see if she has answered back. Yes, I have the Sopranos theme song. That's our ringtone. Let's see. Because she's not answered me back yet, but hopefully she will. You know, that's something that I know that so many of you have experienced violence and abuse, and domestic violence. Domestic violence. One of the big problems is you're connected to your abuser, and you can't get away. I mean, I was lucky enough. Okay, and the time that I was with my abuser, the one that I've been speaking about, I was with him from the time I was 24 until after I was about 26. It wasn't, we weren't together that long, but the abuse kept happening afterwards. So I don't even know how many years, but I thank God he had a fear of being on the grid. And if you know what that's talking about, it's like he didn't want his name on a phone. He didn't want his name on a lease. He had and this was really a problem. He had a driver's license that had expired, but he had ticket after ticket after ticket for driving without a license, and or for driving with an expired license, drug paraphernalia. He had all these tickets, but because his license expired before they could suspend it, every time a cop would pull him over, they'd say, "Oh, do you know your license is expired?" And he'd go, "No, I didn't know that." And they'd say, "Yeah, you can go on. Just get it taken care of." Because back then the police were a lot nicer. Or at least they were nice to him, and he was real charming. He was good at that. If he hadn't been charming, I wouldn't have been with him. But in the first place. But he didn't want. He never. I kept saying, "Why don't you, Greg? Why don't you go and renew your driver's license so you're legal?" He's like, "I don't want to. There are benefits to this." And he never put his name on a lease. He never bought a vehicle. He used everybody else's vehicles. He certainly used mine. He would take mine and go with it, and be gone all day, and I'd be left there, alone. He would take my phone. I had a cell phone, and it was one of my first cell phones that I ever had. He would take the phone, take the car, leave me alone in the house. We did not have a house phone. He wouldn't let me get a house phone because he couldn't take that with him. But leave me stranded. He'd take my car and say, "I'm going to work," and or "I'm going here, I'm going there, I'll be back later." And and it was my car, and I was making payments on it. And then but he wouldn't put his name on anything. And because, and I'm sure some of you all do this as well, we keep track of our abusers. We want to know where they are, what they're doing, what they're up to. I found where he lives. My daughter found it first, by voting registration. He made the mistake of registering to vote in North Carolina. And because of that, I was able to get his address, know where he is. I don't want to do anything to him. God's going to take care of that. God, and it's just basic karma. I mean, because when you live a life full of drugs and hate and abuse and fight and killing people and all of this, it comes back on you and it shows up on you. So I don't need to do anything to him, but I want to know where he is. I want to make sure that he's not anywhere close to me. If he owns a vehicle, I want to know what it looks like. Yeah, you know where all yours are except one. That's the thing. And it's smart to do. You want to make sure that, the person who has caused you so much damage isn't able to do it again. And, he affected my daughter as well as myself. I mean, it wasn't just me. So she has an interest in keeping up with him too. Now, where his daughter is, God, she looks just like him. And, and she was a sweet child. I have nothing against his child. I have nothing against his dad or his stepmom, except for the fact that they kept paying his way out of jail. He had beaten every woman he had been with and been taken out on charges. And we all, one would talk to the next and share with the next and share with the next, of course, until I was in the middle of the situation. I didn't find out about it. Thanks, Channery. But they'd all taken him with charges, but his dad had, paid for a good lawyer, or he convinced them to drop the suit by giving them money. And, he had to pay me a lot of money when he tore up a bunch of stuff after the last fights. But, I took him to court, and I had to go to court against him in North Carolina, and he got out of all of it. Every bit of it, my word against his, even though police came and saw what he'd done to me and saw the blood on me and on my child. There were very few records, and his lawyer just danced right around it. So much mad. But yeah, check voting registry, driver's license. It's actually not as hard to find somebody as you think. If they have a driver's license, if they have a home phone, if they have a cell phone. And I'm not saying to dox somebody. Don't take the information, put it on the internet and go, this son of a bitch is a abuser, blah, blah, blah. Although there have been times where I've just been like, oh, he has done so much. Like when I'll have a nightmare or when I'll think back on it, I'm like, you know what? I need to tell the world. But he tells the world, and the people around him that know him, they tell. They know all of it, and he's gonna die in his own misery. But definitely find out where they are. Wait a minute, just a second, okay. Rebecca, the lady his story, she just wrote me back, and she is at work today, but I'd love to have her come back on. And Rebecca, if you're watching this, I would love to have you come on and share your story personally with us. I understand you're working today, so if you're available next week, I would love to have you on. That would make me very happy to have you share your story, because it's important we get these things out. But okay, so my ex wouldn't put his name on anything. So that's why he was so hard to find, so hard to keep up with. But it also made it to where when we had the final blowouts, the one where, I took him with the warrant and they jailed him, and then he signed himself out on ROR. And, but we ended up going to court, but I kicked him out of my house. But I could, because I was the only person on the lease. And, the phone was in my name, the car was in my name, everything was in my name. And the lease was only in my name, so I could legally throw him out. Now, one of the things that you need to know, I know this is in every state that I've lived in, this has been the case. What's North Carolina? Well, there are just some places that people just haven't evolved. much like West Virginia and Kentucky. And, I think sometimes in these mountains we forget that we've moved into the 21st century. And when a guy beats his girlfriend up, people say, well, what'd you do to make him mad? Instead of that son of a bitch needs to go to jail. And, and it's not just North Carolina. Like I say, it's all through this area. And there are other pockets where, other cultures, not just the Appalachian culture, but there are other cultures that, think it's okay as long as, as long as the stick's not bigger than a thumb. That's in the Bible, that a man can beat his wife as long as the stick is no thicker than a thumb. Let me tell you, somebody comes after me with a cane or a rod that's any size. I don't care if it's bigger than his thumb or not. He better never go to sleep around me. Better never go to sleep around me. I'll never put up with that again. But and one of the things that I try to tell young women to do, and because I get a lot of inquiries online, and so I'm not able to help them. I'm not able to physically go and pick them up and take them to a hotel where they'll be safe. So they say, "What can I do? What are the steps that I can take?" Get shit in your name. Put the lease in your name. If the lease is up for renewal, or you decide to move, put the lease only in your name. They don't have to know. He or she doesn't have to know that they're not on the lease. Just go get the lease in your name. Or don't put your name on the lease. Say, you just do it. You put your name on the lease. And that way, if you need to leave, you have no obligation to that place. And you can get the hell out. And, oh, you lived in Charlotte. I love Charlotte. I have loads of friends in Charlotte. And, yeah, and you're back in West Virginia. Cool. Yay. But what I say too is, get your own phone. Even if it's a burner phone, if it's one of those little track phones, and you buy so many minutes on it, keep it charged, keep it with you, and keep it secret. Have it to where there's GPS on it, and I think all of them have GPS now. But have your contact. The only contacts that should be in it should be the police and people that you can call to come get you if you need help, or take you to the hospital, or pick you up from the hospital, or and your children's school, and all these things. And it needs to be something that's just yours. Have a means of communication. If you have a car, keep that car in your name. Put it in your name. Even if the only car that you can afford is a $500 Beater that gets you back and forth, it has real cheap insurance on it. At least it's in your name. It's a means of escape. So by putting things in your name, and you have an ability to get away. So if you're in a relationship and you can't get out and leave immediately, which hopefully anytime someone hurts you, you can leave. You can leave right away. But to legally untangle yourself, get stuff in your name or keep it out of your name, one or the other. Also, if you are living in a residence, and this is something interesting because abusers move fast. If you say start dating someone, and on the third date they want to move in, red flag first, red flag. Okay, in every relationship I've had that was bad, they wanted to move right in. They wanted instant relationship. They wanted instant wife. They wanted to, oh, I'm going to take care of you and I'm going to move in with you and blah, blah, blah. No. But let me tell you, somebody gets mail at your house, and they get mail, I believe, for over 30 days at your house, or even, well, I have heard it said that if they get mail at your house and it's accepted and returns with a response, say, one fellow that moved in, took over, and I had to throw out. He had a letter come from his ex, or his soon-to-be ex. He was getting separated, and I got the mail. I tried to always make sure I got the mail. I put no such person here, return to sender. Well, he confronted me about it, and I said, "You don't live here. Any kind of mail you get needs to go to your parents' house because this is not your legal residence. Well, his lawyer sent something, and it wasn't that much longer. And I put no such person here, return to sender. And the lawyer actually called me and said, doesn't David Blue reside here? I said, no, he doesn't. He's not on the lease. He does not live here. He does not stay here. Oh, and I said his whole name. Oh, shoot. Okay, y'all forget that. But anyway, I said, no, he doesn't. His legal residence is at his parents, and you can. I said, I've been dating him, but he does not live here. And they said he doesn't pay rent and all that. I said, my bills are none of your concern. It wouldn't matter if he was giving me $10,000 a month to pay every bill I've got. He does not live here. He is not on the lease, and he will never receive mail here. Because let me tell you, if they are receiving mail at your address, they can use that in court to say this is my home, and they can take your home. They can finagle it to where you can't get out, and they won't leave, and so you have to leave, and then you're left without a home. And if you've got kids, and and all the stuff in there is yours, it's just an extra burden and just a way to be an extra pain in the ass for an abuser to torture someone. And women do it as well as men. So, I can't say that it's one over the other. So protect yourself. If you are in a relationship, even in a new relationship, don't jump in. If you think back about the relationships that we have in our lives that did not work out, the ones where it was uncomfortable, where it was abusive, where it was just mismatched. Usually they happen too fast. We didn't look before we leaped. And that's what I try to caution people. I'll have people come in and they're in counseling or in couples counseling. And I'll say, how long was it before you all moved in together? And sometimes they'll say, oh, it was after the first date. We knew we wanted to live together. I knew I wanted to marry her right off. Well, that's fairy tale. It happens once in a blue moon, but not all the time, and not time after time after time. If you're with someone who has a habit of what I call serial monogamy, and it's unhealthy serial monogamy, they date one person, they don't date anybody else, and then they end up staying with them for a long time. They break up, they date one person, they are with them immediately, and it's a long-term relationship, they think, and they stay with them, and then but they never date anybody for a long time before they actually move out, or before they actually, get to know them before they move in or get married. If you see this behavior happening with yourself, or you see that it's happened with someone that you're starting to go out with, or you're considering going out with, one thing, think about it. Because if they are a good person, and you're meant to be together, and they're worthy of your love, and you're worthy of their love, and you're compatible, you don't have to move in the first week. It's going to be, wait a year. And always got time. And it's better. It is much better to take your time and move slowly than it is to rush into things just to say that, oh yeah, I'm engaged, or yeah, we're living together, we're going to get married and all this. So many people think that they're not valuable and they're not good enough unless they're married. And we get raised that way. We get raised to think that, especially women, the only way that you're a valuable woman is if you're, you've got a man, and you're mother to his children, or you take care of his house and dishes are done. If you knew how many times I hear women who have been through abuse say, I had to have the house spotless, the dishes done, the kids' clothes all done and folded and put away, and his socks rolled up. And if he came in from work, even if I'd worked all day and I'd only been there a half an hour before, if I didn't have dinner ready, and if everything wasn't in place, then I wasn't a good wife, and I deserved to be hurt one way or another. And I hear this so many times. I'm like, what makes you think you're responsible for the house? Why is the woman responsible all the time? Because we do it, because we've been told we have to do it. You know, a man can use a washer, a man can use a dust rag, a man can do dishes. My man does dishes. Let me tell you, one of the happiest things that he can do is clean the kitchen. If he cleans the kitchen, I'm a happy wife. And I'm like, woo! I'll cook all you want as long as you clean my kitchen up. Um, but yeah, date, and there should be an equal, you know, equal sense of responsibility from, you know, from whether it's housework or taking care of children eventually, and you know, or if you have children and you bring them together, you know, you parent together, you co-parent, you bring it all together. So you know, it's very important that you get to know someone before you move them in. You would not adopt a dog without getting to know their personality, right? You know, I'm into dog rescue. You know, it's all adopt, don't shop. Um, I do have super chats available. I do have PayPal. The PayPal me at Mama Best World. And Michelle, do you know how that works? I know it's set up for Mama Best World. Um, I think it's PayPal me / Mama Best World. I'm not sure. But anyway, if you donate to that, it's going to go to the dog rescue. Now, I had originally talked about doing Operation Underdog, and I didn't raise much money on that. It ended up being like $50, and you have to have 100 to take out. Now, real quick, let me talk about last Saturday. My last stream last Saturday, it was a beautiful day. Now, you all know I live on top of a mountain. We have quite a few acres and woods, and the dogs. We have an electric fence that keeps, you know, one of those underground electric fences, and the dogs have been trained to not go there, and they have little flags, you know, to stop them. So we've never had a problem with them going in the road or anything like that. If they wander anywhere, they wander into the woods because there's rabbits and squirrels and, you know, all sorts of creatures, and they're dachshunds. And you know, I was hearing the dogs play. You know, it's not a video unless there's dogs yapping in my house. But I saw Merlet, my little Maltese, my little white one, and I saw him going in and out. And I'm like, okay, well, they're just playing in the yard because they usually play in the backyard. They don't go in the front yard, and they certainly don't go up the driveway to the road. But well, my husband came in. It was right near the end of the stream, and he said, "Where are the Dawsons?" And I said, I don't know. I guess they're out in the yard. I honestly thought they were playing because I kept hearing dogs yipping and, you know, back and forth. And I kept seeing them, even though they were behind me, I could see them, you know, through the laptop screen, you know, that they had been in and out. And I knew it hadn't been long. And when I went back in the live stream, it probably hadn't been 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the most that the dogs had been missing or gone. Well, after the live stream, I go outside, and I have a very loud voice, and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs for the dogs. Usually when I holler, they come right away. And so I was going through the backyard. Uh, I was on that balcony so I could get as much vocal distance. And I'm hollering for Spanky and Brian. And then he went out front, and he walked all through the woods out to the front. And then he got in the vehicle and he rode up down the road. He said, surely they wouldn't be in the road. And he couldn't find them anywhere. Then someone contacted me that was with One Rescue. She said, "Is this your dog?" There were 2 Dachshunds found on your roads up near, you know, where the dam is. And she showed the picture, and my little black and white Spanky he was just laying in her arms, just laying. And Brian's head was up, and it said that Spanky had been hit by a car. They thought Brian had been too, and they both needed that. Brian needed medical attention. Well, I was frantic. I'll be honest, I don't remember a lot of what I said, what I did. I know I was in hysterics, but it took hours, and I want to thank Missy Omar. She runs West Virginia Lost and Found Pets, and that's her rescue. And any money I raise will be going to her from now and now on. I will be giving to Operation Underdog what I raised for them, but I'm going to be working with her, helping her rescue. But she does this on her own, and she does work with the Humane Society and works with their rescue. But this is her personal rescue, and she literally stays out. She went above and beyond. She literally tracked down, found the person who posted the picture, who was a young girl. She found a friend of her boyfriend, tracked him down to where he worked, went to his job, got him to call his friend, got his friend to call the girl, and the girl called her mother. The mother finally called my husband. This took like 5 hours. And the whole time I'm in hysterics because I just lost my shit. And thank you all so much. I appreciate your messages and your sympathy and all the prayers. But anyway, we got him. Brian miraculously was unhurt. She thought he had been hurt because he was laying with his brother with his head down and his eyes closed. They've never been separated since birth. And it's back here passed, and they said that he he would have died instantly. It wasn't like he was in pain, but anyway, Brian was okay. Merlet, apparently, somebody said that Merlet had been with them when hit, and I'm assuming that the girl was letting us know that she was the one that hit them, but I don't know. And I can't be angry because if dogs are in the road, they shouldn't be. And while this road is literally like 25 miles per hour, people fly on it, and there are always dogs and kids in the road, and it scares the shit out of me. That's why I like the house being back. But so we went to Lowe's and we were looking for a good fence to build the dog run. And that way, because if the electric fence won't hold them in nothing well, other than an actual fence in the back. So we'll have a dog run. But for right now, every time they go outside, I go with them and I'll watch them and they don't go out of my sight. Because I'm not losing another one of my babies. And they are my babies. And y'all know that. Oh, thank you, Tiff. I love you too. Thank you, Miss Teacher Dish. I love you all. Y'all are so supportive. I've gotten so many messages and, so many people caring. And, you never know. And Spanky was the sweetest dog. He and Brian, they would argue and fuss just like brothers, but they had to be right on me all the time. They were very emotionally needy. Brian now still is. Brian's right there. He's sleeping upside down. And but the problem is now he's having nightmares. You can tell he'll start shaking really hard. Not like he's running like normally, but yeah, he'll have nightmares, and so he's traumatized. But he'll get through it. He has stayed within 5 feet of me ever since. So thank you, sweetheart. Thank you, Angie. So that's what happens with the dogs, and we're down to come right through. We lost our Chloe. She had severe kidney disease. They couldn't do anything for her. We would have paid any amount of money to have her be able to, not be sick. But she passed away then, the end of last year. So we had 4, and now we're down to 2, and it's just hard. We're going to end up having to order headstones. But anyway, Miss Petri Dish, mine got locked. Let me tell you, okay, Twitter has been just an asshole. I don't know why. I don't know what has happened to it. But I have had Mama Beth World forever. Y'all know since I started my channel. Now sends it to the email, and I'm fine from there. And then it says, send SMS text message to your phone. I'm like, okay. It never sends the text to put in the code. And I don't know why. I have a business account that I use, and and then I had to make this new one, which is Mama Best World with #1. And it says Mama Beth Alt, so that way it's the second one, just in case I get the first one back. But yeah, I don't know what Twitter's doing. It has canceled I don't know how many accounts. Friends of mine are like, yeah, I had to make a new account, and these are people who, I mean, I get on there and argue. Y'all know if you watch it, I'll call people names. I was in a political argument earlier today, and but now I'm like afraid to even get in a good argument. Hang on just a second. I just love Michelle. She's so sweet. Let me. She's gonna put the PayPal link. If you want to donate, that's where any donations that I get, any super chats, they take 40%, so it's easier to do PayPal, to be honest. So I'll let Michelle put the link in, and let's see. And anything that comes to this will go. Okay, it's paypal.me/MamaBestWorld. I'm just going to take. It's got my old name on it, so let me go. And I will send that to Michelle. Thank you, doll baby. I appreciate it. And my husband's going, do you want anything to eat? Yes. I'm on live. So, and then who else? Okay. Okay. I got it. Hold on just a second. I swear everything's beeping and buzzing. I got a new pump a while ago. You all know that I've got high glucose, and I shouldn't because I haven't eaten anything other than but I'll go ahead and bolus. I got a new sensor, and if you know anything about type 1 diabetics, we have to give ourselves insulin because our pancreas doesn't work, right? Okay, well, mine not only doesn't work, my body doesn't recognize insulin. My body just says, we don't know what that shit is. So my blood sugar keeps going up. But a lot of times it'll do it in the middle of the night when I'm not eating, like if I have any pain or like my sinuses are bothering me right now. And so my blood sugar is just doing crazy stuff. Well, this little sensor, wait a minute, I don't know if I can show it to you. It looks kind of crazy. See? It's like a little seashell thing, and then there's a lot of tape that comes with it. And see, this is my pump. I don't know if some of y'all may never have seen this before. This is my pump, and this is this is where it inserts, and it puts a little tube in me. And this one does the same, and it puts a little tube in me. But the difference with the sensor is that it reads my blood sugar automatically every 5 minutes. So it graphs it, it tracks it. So like when I eat, I have to calibrate it in the morning and at night. And then when I eat, I take a bolus, which is when you give yourself extra insulin. But then my pump gives me insulin every hour, so much every hour. It gives me like I think it's 1.35 units every hour, just like your pancreas would. And but this is so cool because I haven't had real highs and real lows. Thank you, darling. I appreciate it. Let's see, my cat. Oh, yeah. You know what? I've closed my old Facebook because the asshole that was stalking me, and that's what I'm calling him, just crazy. He saw all my pictures and was like making crazy videos and stuff like that. So I closed it down and it erased all of that. But then I made a new one that I'm not putting a whole lot on. Just I'm doing it just to stay in contact and for like reunions and things like that. And some family I stay in contact with purely through Facebook. And that's all I use Facebook for, is to keep in contact with old friends. I really don't use it for business as much, but I do I do put my announcements for my videos on there. And But it's, yeah, Miss Petri dish, this is the coolest thing I have ever come across. This is like having a pancreas on the outside of my body because it reads and then it tells me. The only thing is, it wakes me up. It's like, you have high sugar at 3 a.m. And I'm like, okay. And then I have to bolus. And then a lot of times it'll want me to calibrate, which means I have to do a finger stick. And I usually don't finger stick in the middle of the night, but I do anywhere from 4 to 10 during the day. So it's a lot. But it's really, this is really amazing. I was starting to crash this morning. I didn't even know it. And it alerted me. It alerts me when I'm below 70. And then I was like, okay. And I checked. And by the time it, it, it went off, and then by the time I checked it, I was already down to 60. So I was crashing fast. And I was able to get juice and crackers and be fine. So, and now it's saying it's up, but I think it's up because, yeah, it's got some aches and pains going on, and that will do it. But I changed the password on my Twitter, and let's see, I've changed the password. I've changed it probably 10 times, but it just will not send the code to my phone. So if you want to get in touch with me, though, I've got the new one. It's Mama Best World #1, and it'll take you to my new Twitter, and and my DMs are always open if you ever want to talk. We've got about 40 minutes left, and I wanted to talk about abuse, and not domestic abuse. Not I'll talk about sexual abuse, and this is a real delicate subject. So if I don't think I have anybody under 18, but if I do, this you might want to. I'll try to make it. I'll try to make it understandable enough to where it's not offensive to anyone. But you know, in my job, I'm taking some Gatorade in a minute. In my line of work, I come across teens who have been molested by family members, friends. Um, it's crazy when you think about. Remember how stranger danger? We kept talking stranger danger. You heard it in the 80s all the time. Stranger danger. Pedophiles are out there who'll grab you and molest you. But in my experience, the people who are the predators are usually the fathers, the uncles, the cousins, family friends, people who are close. The guy next door that you trust to watch your kids while you go to the grocery store. Um, I I never have a patient who has gone through sexual abuse, whether it's incestuous, whether it's someone older that is in their family circle of friends, or however. I never hear one that it doesn't break my heart, because that to me is the ultimate betrayal, um, to take advantage of a child, and rape victims. I have been a victim of rape, and I identify with that. But as bad, I think about how bad it was as an adult, and then I think how much more awful, how I can't even more awful, how much worse it would be if that had happened as a child. So I have a lot of empathy for those patients, and and it takes years to work through it. And I had, and I won't mention any names, but there were two children that my daughter was friends with, and I've come to talk to both of them as adults. And you know, if you've heard me talk about raising my child, you know that my house was kind of like romper room. I would have between, if she didn't, she would have either 1 or 10 friends that were at the house. We, you know, I was the house everybody came to stay in, and parents were always grateful because they got to go out, and yeah, let's send the kid over, to Beth's house, and they'll play and she'll be fine, and and I was happy to keep children from Friday until Sunday, just because I like having a house full of kids, and I only have one, and and she was always very popular, and she was very outgoing, and the kids played well, and so I never minded it. But there were two kids throughout her childhood that I always felt were just a little different, and it wasn't different in a way that you could put your pin that you could pinpoint. It wasn't something that I could I could say this and this and this equals this. You know what I mean? If you see a child with bruises, you know they've been hit or they've fallen and hurt themselves. If a child is being molested by the parents, oftentimes there are no signs, except, and I will say this, except they were needy. They seemed to be cleaning and needing, and the first little girl, um, it was her stepfather. He had been convicted of being a sexual predator. He's a sex offender, registered, and her mother, the little girl, beautiful little girl. I mean, the kind of little girl that makes you go, oh, she's gonna grow up and be so beautiful. She's so beautiful now. She's incredible. Just one of those kids, and she don't lie about it. And her mother told me this was when our kids first met, and I was like, okay, well, my kid won't be staying over at your house ever. She won't be coming over ever, especially not while he's there. And the mother assured me, she said it was all false accusations. He was railroaded, blah, 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 because women tend to defend their men even when it's indefensible. Okay. So I said, well, your daughter's welcome to come to my house anytime, but mine won't be going over, whenever he's around. If I find out that he's ever around her, she'll never be over there again. And, so, and that's just what I felt I had to do as a parent. And I was right to do that because I found out, and I met the guy. And he talked to me about it, and he said it was the worst feeling. There was nothing I could say to defend myself, and everybody believed her, nobody believed me, and all this. And I'm like, okay, well that's fine and dandy, but you're still never around my kid. Um, I found out years later that he had been molesting a little girl from the time I think she was probably about 7 or 8. Now I just I'm very glad that I had the common sense to say my daughter's never being around him. But at the same time, I'm like, you know, the story that the mother and the stepfather gave were, semi plausible. That was, it could have happened, right? You think maybe, how could you love somebody and have your daughter around them if they were a bad person? And she's got good judgment. She's a good person. I like her. The mother. So surely she wouldn't put her kid at risk. And you think these things, but then you find out later. That's why the little girl wanted to stay at our house all the time. That's why she was very clingy to me. And when I say clingy, I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean, she wanted to be on my lap. She wanted to put her head on my shoulder. She wanted comfort. And, she would call me her second mom. When I say that I've been called Mama Beth for a long time, it really has, even before therapy. You know, and then we moved. And as always, Madeline made lots of new friends when she was at the new school. And this little girl was just beautiful little girl. And sweet as could be. I met her. She lived with her dad. Her parents were divorced. Her mother really wasn't in the picture at first. Her mother had, I don't know, gone off, done something. I don't know. It was a weird situation with that, but her dad was so friendly and outgoing, and it was like, I really appreciate, you letting her stay with you, because she would spend the night all the time. I mean, they went to the same school, they were together, pretty much 24/7, and I'd go get her. I'd say, my kid's bored, can we have her? And yeah, all the time. Um, and he would thank me, and he would message me online, because always I was working on the home computer to do. I was in sales at the time, and doing marketing and advertising, and so I did a lot of paperwork at night. And he would message me, "Hey, how's she doing?" Blah blah blah. And he actually asked me out, and I was like, "No, I'm not in that place." But the little girl was so precious. I mean, just precious. And when she was at our house, I mean, literally, I had a king size bed. I'd get in the bed. We had to turn one of like five movies on that they watched every night. But I would have my kid in the bed, and then her in the bed, and it would be all three of us, but in the king size bed, so it was plenty of room. I mean, they were like 9, 10. So, it would just, and she was so happy at our house. And I was so happy to have her. And sometimes my kid would get jealous. She'd be like, "You play more too there." I'm like, "Oh, quit being jealous. I love you." And, I always tried to make sure that, to squash any kind of jealousy. But they were literally like sisters. And I loved her like she was my own. And if I had known that her dad had been raping her since she was 8 years old or so, I would have taken her in a heart. I'd probably been jail. I mean, that's just fact of the matter. I would probably be in jail. I know damn sure he would. But I would have taken her, and I would have kept her. And I would have raised her like mine. And because her mother was non-existent. I found out when I finally, she got in touch with me, and she was still sweet, still this beautiful, sweet girl. But she has been through so much, and she just kept thanking me for being there, and for being supportive, and for being a good parent to her when she needed it, and being a safe place. And I just keep beating my head against the wall and saying, "Why didn't I know? I wish to God she'd said something." But why didn't I know? Why didn't I sense something? Why couldn't I have prevented this from continuing? Because I would have in a heartbeat. I don't understand. I don't understand that. But I will say that she's in a good place now. She's got 2 children. She's got a wonderful spouse in her life, and she's making a way. I'm really proud of her, and I still love her. You know. Lily said my dad said weird stuff to me. He would squeeze me too hard and swallow on me when he kissed me. It made me feel horrible, but no one said anything. Looking back, I think that's abuse. Sorry if it's TMI. No, that is abuse. It's gross. It's gross that an adult male to a little girl would say inappropriate things, touch her. Um, I always, we always, like in the 90s when I was raised in mine, I'd be like, no one is allowed to touch you anywhere your bathing suit goes. And I'd say, if it's your bathing suit area, nobody can touch you there ever. But nobody can make you feel uncomfortable. If you feel weird or uncomfortable, or they say or do something to you, you come and tell me. Let me take care of it. And and I started doing this from when my daughter was about 2. But a lot of kids never hear that. They never understand that they have a choice, or they can say no. That they can say, "Don't touch me." You make me feel weird. You're creepy. You know, kids now are getting better educated on it because we're doing a better job at it. But Miss Petri Dish, I wish I wish to God I could go back and know now what I know then, and I would have just I just taken her. But there's a lot of things that I would have done. I would have taken her as a little girl as well. And I just that's why I work with children and adults who are survivors of abuse, but I cannot work with the abuser. I can't do it. I mean, if I found out they've hurt a child, I can't do it. I have absolutely, there is nothing in my heart for them. There's no sympathy, there's no empathy, there's no understanding. I can't do it. And I know that's a limitation. There are people who work with pedophiles and try to, rehabilitate them, which is bullshit. I think they should be castrated or killed. Sorry, you touch a kid. But, thank you, Shell. She's so good. Yeah, there's no healing them, and I can't work with them. And, I think there is a special place in hell for pedophiles. Absolutely. I think and I think it's one of the worst ones, and I hope it is. I really, I have faith in God, and I'm Christian, but it doesn't talk a lot about hell in the Bible. We get all our ideas about hell from Dante's Inferno. Dante made all the levels and what they were for and all of that in his poem, but the Divine Comedy, and I hope that he's right. I hope that the people, because his in his work, he basically says that whatever you've done in life is a sin. It's reversed on you in hell to punish you. So I hope that happens. I really do. It's a horrible, horrible thing. Two Little Angels says my mom used to blame us and say our stepdad was doing it because the way we dressed or acted. She said we brought it on ourselves. Really, at 8 years old. Yeah, that's fucked up. Yeah, that's your mother in denial that she's with a piece of shit that would even look at an 8-year-old in a sexual manner. I don't care how a child is dressed. I don't care if they're wandering naked through the house. You should not have sexual thoughts about them. There is nothing in your mind that should click and go, ugh, it's wrong. And I don't care how they're dressed. And okay, look at the way little girls' clothes are right now. My Lord, you can't find a pair of shorts that barely covers their hind end because that's the style right now. Does that mean that they should be sexualized? Absolutely not. And anybody that does that or tries to shift blame to the victim or to the child, they're sick. And, they need to never be around children. And I'm sorry that your mother blamed you and protected your stepdad. I can't imagine doing that. If I found out somebody had done something like that, there's no way I could ever defend them. It would be over with, and but I'm very. I just I could not, and I don't. And see, if I had you in counseling, I would be fine. But if I had your mother in counseling, trying to tell me how your stepdad wasn't the guilty part, I could not do it. I couldn't talk. Yeah, see, don't want to. I agree to that. Your dad said he knew I wanted him. Gross. Yeah. That's see that they always want to shift it around. Well, she was asking for it, or she liked it, or she was seducing me. No, 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 no. It's a null argument. There is no sexual chemistry between an adult and a child, especially a father, a stepfather, an uncle, all of that. No, no. And if it's ever brought up again, tell them they're full of shit. Bull. You're just a sick piece of crap. You tell them. My grandmother bathed me until I was 15 and told me how dirty I was. Through therapy, I learned it was abuse. Yes. 30 years later, I still hear her voice about how dirty I am. Oh, I am so sorry. You know, it is abuse. Absolutely. But, you know, when you look into it, and I've had patients who had similar stories, that it was their mother or their grandmother or their aunt, and they ingrained in them that as being a girl, they were just dirty, couldn't get clean, nothing would, and some were scrubbed with scrub brushes. I've heard of lye soap, bleach in the bathwater. It's horrible stories, horrible abusive stories. And what it turns out is that those women were abused themselves and they were made to feel like that. And they're passing it on because what we have done to us without education and change, we do to others. You know, and that's terrible. And I am so sorry that happened. But I'm glad you were in therapy, and I'm glad you did learn that it was abuse, and that, you know, you're a beautiful person, and very worthy, and not dirty at all. You know, when we find out that we are valuable, you know, it takes sometimes until we're adults because the adults in our family are so screwy. You know, they've got their own demons they're dealing with, and they project them onto us. So we have to fight against them. But I'm glad that you got help. But I hope that you quit hearing her voice. Mm. Absolutely, Steve. Absolutely. And you know, the fact that the people that are supposed to protect you the most are your parents, your mother and your father, right? You know, they're supposed to be the ones that you go to when you're hurt or when you need anything, or, you know, when you're in pain. And when you and this is such horrendous pain, emotional, physical, sexual. Um, and then you go to the very person who's supposed to help you, and they don't. That's not only gut wrenching, but it's a betrayal. And I think that's why a lot of us have such a hard time getting past that. See, I told you you hear dog yip. Um, we have such a hard time getting past that because not only did you suffer through the abuse, and I say we, I was not molested as a child. Um, it's it's that our parents didn't protect us, you know, and it's bad enough with, you know, getting hit or, you know, screamed at or, you know, just the emotional, mental, physical abuse. But sexual abuse takes it to an entirely new level. And you don't forgive that or forget it easily. You definitely never forget it. Forgiving it, that's probably the hardest thing to forgive. And I'm not sure I'd be able to do it. I mean, uh, my baby sister was 9 months old, and the doctor was saying someone had touched her. Kept telling my mom I knew it was her dad, my stepdad, and my mom blamed everyone but him. What is your mother's issue? I mean, was she just desperately trying to hang on to him and willing to sacrifice her children? I mean, I can't understand. I, I can't understand either side of that. See, that's why I have difficulty with it. You know, I can work with victims, but not perpetrators because I don't understand a mother who would not take up for her child and an infant, you know, over a man, you know, to keep a man. Why would you want a man like that? I don't understand it. Yeah, I tell my daughter, Miss Petri Dish, I tell my daughter all the time, You heard my heartbeat before you were alive. I heard your heartbeat before you were born. We are blood and bone. There's nothing that will ever separate us. I don't care if, she's not close to her dad, but there is nothing closer than our relationship. I cannot imagine putting anyone before her. And, and thankfully I have a wonderful husband who loves her like she's his own. And I mean, he'd kill for her. And, he's definitely threatened to whip some ass over her. But, I just, there is no way I could ever want a man so much that I would let my children be home. Yeah, I'm hopeless, betrayed, and alone. Yeah, that's what I keep. Oh, every time I work with a patient who's been abused, that's what they say. I felt alone. Nobody would hear me, and that's why I didn't tell more people, because I told my mom, my grandmother, my aunt, whoever they told, and they did nothing. And they were supposed to be the most important person in their life, right? Your mother. If you go to your mother and say, he did this, and she doesn't believe you, why would a teacher or a counselor or a minister or, you know, a neighbor? That's where the logic runs, right? But the truth of the matter is, sometimes the ones closest to us are the ones that betray us. And I always stress for people, with children when we're just in conversation, to say, you need to tell them that they can talk to you about anything, and that if anything, whatever it is, that you will never get mad if they talk about being hurt or an adult doing something to them. And I tell, educators and, nurses especially, um, because nurses sometimes get a little jaded, and that's part of the job. And I mean, because I work with nurses all the time, and a lot of times they hear so much that they get a little numb. But I'm like, you need to realize that sometimes you're alone with a child or a young person, and you can hear them when nobody else is listening. So I try to always get nurses and PAs and, those in the healthcare field, teachers aides, teachers, people who work in churches, with kids. Um, keep your ears open. Listen to what they're saying. It is storming like crazy here. I don't know what it's like where you are, but yeah, it's thundering and lightning and pouring the rain. So Lily says he would intimate that my mother didn't like sex with him. Why would he do that? To see if you would be open to the idea. Your mother doesn't like sex with me. Maybe you can take a place. That's been said to me. And, a child is never a replacement for a spouse. Of course, that's just sick. And, he was just a sick man. And he's trying to work his way. They start with the mental, then they start pressuring, and then it becomes physical. Yeah, no one person is worth the torment of a child. She was extremely mentally and drastically physically abusive herself. Sounds like sounds like they were just a match made in hell, and you all got caught in the middle of it, and I'm so sorry. Yeah, Steve, I know you've made yourself very clear on that, and I appreciate that. We need more men and women you know, who are strong about this subject and can help support the victims, but never, and I mean never in my book, uh, give way to anyone's excuses or, well, it was done to me, and so I did it. Just because somebody beat the shit out of you doesn't mean you're gonna beat the shit out of somebody else. Just because you were molested as a child, you should remember, and we know it's cyclical. We know that there's a part of the brain that shuts off, that it's wrong and all that because it's done to them as a child, and that carries through to the adult. But I'm sorry if if you've suffered abuse and you know that, then there are enough resources out here to get help for it and learn to change your way of thinking, and that and understand that it was wrong what was done to you, and not to hurt another one and not continue the cycle. It's raining there. It is pouring here. Yeah, Lily. I experienced that growing up. Yeah. Um, that's that's why I say don't ever hit a child ever with a hand, with anything, nothing. Um, it's raining in Parkersburg. Miss Petri Dish, where are you? It's hot here. It's I don't know what the temperature is around here. And it is 65 degrees here in Porn. So it's warm. I mean, it's a lot warmer than it has been, but it is literally pouring the rain. It's crazy. Lily, it's okay to get, because you're talking about it and we're discussing it, and it's upsetting for me too. I mean, especially about physical abuse, because I think about what I went through, and it's hard. And I get angry and I get mad. I want to go put my fist in a wall sometimes, but but that's okay. It's okay to get mad, and it's okay to get it out, because we need to. It's better to let off firecrackers than atomic bombs. I always say. And part of the healing process is getting out the fact that, hey, that was wrong and I'm angry about it. And then you can heal. You can heal as much as possible. We're always going to have scars, but we can heal. It's so hard at times now, because at times I feel like she doesn't deserve it. Deserve what? Forgiveness? Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, we break that chain of abuse. We break that cycle, and there's no excuse not to, especially with mental health advocacy being the way it is. And by the way, May is Mental Health Awareness Month, and so if you know someone with depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, borderline, any kind of problems, you know, definitely be supportive. Spread the awareness. You'll see me tweet things, and send them here. I'm always happy to have new viewers and to talk. But yeah, Lee, see, that's the way I wasn't molested, but I was hit, and I was verbally abused constantly. So I was really protective over mine, because I didn't want her to go through that. And I think that's the way we should be, instead of continuing, hurting our children like we were hurt. Do it the opposite, and that's how we learn and grow. And it's we have to do that. Lily says, "Oh, wait a minute." Two Angels said, "I take care of her now, because she's had strokes." And she says, "You take care of your mother after all that abuse? You got a bigger heart than I did." I'll just say that, because it would. I don't think I could do that. And I'm just saying that as a woman and as a mom. And you're, I don't know how you're doing it. I'll be honest. I don't know how you find it in you. Because I took care of my grandmother who had Alzheimer's, and I took care of her because she was so good to me. And she protected me a lot. And it was such a difficult job that I can't imagine doing it for someone that wasn't good to me. I'll be honest. I couldn't do it. Lily says, sometimes I would find comfort in drinking. That doesn't work in the long run. No, it doesn't, because it only injures you. That's why I said, I don't really drink. I never have. And, that one Christmas when I was like, every time, it started out as a joke, but every time she insulted me, or, said something really rude, I was going to take a drink. It was like a drinking game. But I'm like, my God, you know, I've never been one for self-medicating, but yeah, that was scary that I could that it was causing me to do that. And you know, my medicines make me loopy now sometimes. In fact, I've been accused of drinking late night drinks, and I'm like, no, it's a medicine, and they make me feel awful. But yeah, self-medicating, whether it's with alcohol, pills, whatever, it's it's not healthy. You're just going to tear your body up, and you already need to heal. You know, um, I've had to learn what they are doing that's normal. I always massage out my body. I don't know what you're talking about. What who is doing is normal. Well, um, you know, being mentally ill, it you know, it's the reason, but it's not the excuse. That's what I always tell people who are dealing with parents who, you know, may be mentally ill and they've suffered abuse. Um, but it's just so sad, and I commend you. You have a bigger heart than I do because I'm not sure I could do that. You know, it's just it's such a horrible thing to go through, and I'm trying to figure out. I've got to go back up what Lee said. Um, oh, that they're comfortable with the changes in their body and discussing things. Yeah, you know, that's the thing when you've been taught that anything to do with your body is dirty, or you've been molested or abused, or that showing any part of your body would result in abuse. Then when you get your own kids and you raise them right with healthy attitudes about their bodies and sex and gender and acceptance, then you're like, whoa, this is a whole different mindset, and children naturally are comfortable. It's adults who make them uncomfortable. Yeah, dancing hamburger. I had I don't want to drink because like my my maternal grandfather, he was an alcoholic. He was a functioning alcoholic. He's one of the best people you'd ever meet. Worked, made good money, took care of my grandmother. Of course, she worked too. And, but he was an alcoholic, and I loved him so much, but I don't ever want to even go down that path. Which my liver has stopped me. So, my liver labs, although they came back good last time, but I don't want to screw with them. But and hello, by the way, Dancing Hamburger. It's good to see you. Um, that's the thing. We have to watch how we self-medicate. You know, if you don't have any history of alcoholism in your family, I don't see any problem being a social drinker. Like I said before, my liver started messing up from the Wilsons, and that has to do with copper. It's autoimmune, it's all that shit. I'd have a drink or two when we went out. We'd go to a party or we'd go to, out to dinner. I'd have a glass of wine with dinner. I don't find anything wrong with that. It's when we start drinking for a reason. Not just because we're being social or just because it's an occasion, where, and in moderation. The Bible says everything in moderation. And that goes for alcohol. I don't see a problem with having a drink here or there, but if you start drinking all the time because you're hurting or you want to dull your senses, or you find that you start taking medication, like if you're taking pain medication and you're in emotional pain and not physical pain, then that's a problem. And then you definitely need to seek help, seek treatment. But yeah, drinking to go into a different mindset. Hang on just a second. Well, I'm getting a few messages. You all have my PayPal information if you want to donate. It does go to the rescue. It will go to West Virginia Lost and Found Pets. And the first donation, when I get to the right amount of money to where I can pull some of it out, then the part that is slated to go to Operation Underdog will, and then the rest will go to Missy Elmore's, um, her organization. And I'm just very thankful that they got our Brian back. But, and yeah, Steve, that's it. I think if my liver hadn't been messed up, I could. I don't take like strong. I don't take anything other than ibuprofen unless the pain gets really really bad. And um, so I could socially drink if it weren't for the liver stuff. But I just not my thing. I kind of like being in control. The only time that I would think about it is at night. Like, something to help me relax because I have terrible insomnia, but I have sleeping medication and I try different ones because I just have a real hard time getting to sleep and staying asleep. The Belsommer is working well, I must say, but that's and it just helps me relax and helps me stay asleep. But yeah, if you have a couple glasses with dinner, I don't see anything wrong with that. I mean, we had a wine themed wedding, literally. Um, we love good wine. You know, my my dream. I mean, I was working on becoming an actual sommelier when I owned the restaurant, and we had some fantastic wines. And I tell you what, my favorite is Vivico, best champagne ever. And and I miss the taste. I miss how how delicious it was. But you do what you gotta do. But yeah, the with like pain medication, see, I have to take it with my RA because literally I can't walk, and I'll wake up in the middle of the night crying in my sleep, and that's when I have to take something. But it's very rare that I take anything other than ibuprofen. Take Got to take care of yourself as best as possible. Um, my little two little angel wingsters. My mom would get mad because I raised my girls, but they're beautiful no matter what. She would say I'm raising them stuck up. And I said, no, I'm raising them to be confident with themselves. Absolutely. I can't agree with that more. I told my daughter every day, we laugh about it now because she's 27. I tell her every day that she's brilliant, that she's exactly who she was meant to be, and that I'm proud of her, and that she's smart and she's beautiful, and she can do anything that she wants to do that she sets her mind to and works at. And you know what? She has blossomed. I've got a 27-year-old who this week, let's see, she went to Nevada for what a convention. It was like Jonathan Adler and a bunch of other. She works in hotel construction. She's in business development, and she's executive director of business development. And the company that she works for does huge hotels. So she was in Vegas it was a design thing, and but she just took her car and she said, you know what, I've never been to California. It's a few hours, and she drove through the Mojave Desert. And she's also a photographer. She has a side business. In fact, she's shooting a wedding today. Um, she took some of these fantastic pictures. Absolutely beautiful. And she was there Monday through, let's see, she got home yesterday, and so she's back in Maryland, and now she's off to, shoot a wedding. But she was like, it's funny, I've been across the country in a week. She said, and I loved every minute of it. And, it's so cute because she Snapchats me and FaceTimes me wherever she is at all times. She knows I'm always awake. But it's it's just wonderful that she's so free and she's confident. And I always tell her I raised her like a gypsy or a traveler. And I said, I never want you to be afraid to go anywhere or do anything. Life is truly an adventure, and she lives that. And I'm real proud of her. And we should tell our kids that we love them and that they're fantastic. You know, why not? Do we want them to think they're worthless? No. Oh, you've got epilepsy. I'm sorry. I take Topamax. I wondered where you went, doll baby. Lost your connection. I'm afraid I might lose mine if the storm keeps up. You know, I'm up here on a mountain, but my wife helps me quit drinking. Bless her soul. You have a good wife. That's wonderful. I'm stuck home for a while. I got hurt at work, and the MRI came back and it's got me upset. But I'm getting through. My friend lives in Nevada. I miss her. Oh, I'm sorry about your injury. I really am. I hope you heal. Man, taking care of your mom, doing all that, that's wild. You've got a lot on you, and I mean a lot. But I hope you heal, and yeah, I just want you all to know that you all sharing your stories when people come and I get, I don't ever have a whole lot in the chat at one time, like when I'm live, but I notice that I'll get 2, 3, 4, 500 in the week after because people come back and watch the streams. And some people are uncomfortable being in a stream or in a chat, but they like to watch it after. I just want you to know that your candor, opening up, being so honest, it helps people, helps others, because there are others who have, been through similar issues. And you're doing a lot of good. So, you can dancing hamburger. Your grandma is exactly right. And rambling isn't a bad thing. I ramble all the time. Oh, it's sunny, 75, Massachusetts. Oh, you're probably going to get them, unfortunately, because I think they're coming from the Gulf up. But it's a little bit after 3, and I'm going to take a little bit of time off, and then I will be back at 4 o'clock. Now, 4 o'clock, for everybody, we're going to be talking about anxiety, different kinds of anxiety, what causes anxiety, the roots of anxiety. Everybody, since last week, I have had so many people contact me about anxiety and how to treat it, and how it used to be treated, how it's treated now. Different techniques that you can use to manage anxiety, whether it's a panic attack, whether it's social anxiety, like things like agoraphobia. I talk about agoraphobia all the time. I have a lot of patients with it. But how to manage it, and how to hopefully get past the worst of it so you can control it and continue to live a good life. Okay. So I'm going to say goodbye for right now. I'm going to go eat whatever my husband brought me for lunch, and I will be back at 4 o'clock. And Miss Petri Dish, if you would like to come on panel and talk about what you're going through, why your anxiety is bad, and share, be more than happy to send you it. Okay. And you went through and going through agoraphobia. Yeah, and that's a learned disorder. Agoraphobia is. And so I will see everyone at 4. I love you. You love you. God bless. See you in a little bit. Bye.